this very important question of the meaning and the significance of life, and asking the question, is life without God absurd? Man, writes Loren Eiseley, is the cosmic orphan. He's the only creature in the universe who asks why. Other animals have instincts to guide them. But man has learned to ask questions. Who am I? He asks. Why am I here? Where am I going? Well, ever since the Enlightenment, when modern man threw off the shackles of religion, he's tried to answer those questions without reference to God. But the answers that came back were not exhilarating, but dark and terrible. You are the accidental byproduct of nature, the result of matter plus time plus chance. There is no reason for your existence. All you face is death. Modern man thought that in getting rid of God, he had freed himself from everything that stifled and oppressed him. Instead, he discovered that in killing God, he had only succeeded in orphaning himself. For if there is no God, then man's life becomes ultimately absurd. If God does not exist, then both man and the universe are inevitably doomed to death. Man, like all biological organisms, must die. With no hope of immortality, man's life leads only to the grave. His life is but a spark in the infinite blackness, a spark that appears, flickers, and dies forever. Compared to the infinite stretch of time, the span of man's life is but an infinitesimal moment, and yet this is all the life that he will ever know. And the universe, too, faces a death of its own. Scientists tell us that the universe is expanding, and as it does so, its energy is used up, and it grows colder and colder. Eventually, all the stars will burn out, and all matter will collapse into dead stars and black holes. There will be no light. There will be no life. There will be no heat. Only the corpses of dead stars and galaxies, ever expanding into the endless darkness and the cold recesses of space, a universe in ruins. So not only is the life of each individual person doomed, the entire human race is doomed. The universe is plunging toward inevitable extinction. Death is written throughout its structure. There is no escape. There is no hope. If there is no God, then, man and the universe are doomed. Like prisoners condemned to death, we await our unavoidable execution. There is no God, and there is no immortality. And what is the consequence of this? It means that life itself becomes absurd. It means that the life we do have is without ultimate significance, value, or purpose. Let's look briefly at each one of these. First, no ultimate meaning without God. If each individual person passes out of existence when he dies, then what ultimate meaning can be given to his life? Does it really matter whether he ever existed at all? Someone might say, well, his life was important because it affected others or influenced the course of history. But that shows only a relative significance to his life, not an ultimate significance. His life may be important relative to certain other events, but what is the ultimate significance of any of those events? If all the events are meaningless, then what can be the ultimate importance of influencing any of them? Ultimately, it makes no difference. The same is true of the human race in general. Mankind is a doomed race in a dying universe. Because the human race will eventually cease to exist, it makes no ultimate difference whether it ever did exist. Mankind is thus no more significant than a swarm of mosquitoes or a barnyard of pigs, for their end is all the same blind cosmic process that coughed them all up in the first place will eventually swallow them all up again. And thus the contributions of the scientist to the advance of human knowledge, the researches of the doctor to alleviate pain and suffering in the world, the sacrifices of good people everywhere to better the lot of the human race, All of these come to nothing. In the end, they don't make one bit of difference, not one bit. And because each person's life is ultimately meaningless, the activities that we fill our lives with are also meaningless. The long hours spent in study at the university, our jobs, our friendships, our interests, all of these are, in the final analysis, ultimately meaningless. This is the horror of modern man. Because he ends in nothing, he ultimately is nothing. The French existentialists, Jean-Paul Sartre and Albert Camus, understood this too well. Sartre portrays life in his play No Exit as hell. The final line of the play are the words of resignation, well, let's get on with it. Hence, Sartre speaks elsewhere of the nausea of existence. Man, he says, is adrift in a boat without a rudder on an endless sea. Camus also saw life as absurd. Life, he says, is like a man condemned to push a boulder up a hill only to have it roll down again, over and over again for all eternity. At the end of his brief novel, The Stranger, Camus' hero discovers in a flash of insight that there is no God and that the universe has no meaning. The French biochemist Jacques Monod seems to echo these sentiments when he wrote in his book Chance and Necessity, man finally knows that he is alone in the indifferent immensity of the universe. Thus, if there is no God, then life itself becomes ultimately meaningless. Man and the universe are without any ultimate significance. Secondly, no ultimate value without God. If life ends at the grave, then ultimately it makes no difference whether one has lived as a Stalin or as a Mother Teresa, since one's destiny is ultimately unrelated to one's behavior. You may as well just live as you please. As the Russian writer Fyodor Dostoevsky put it, if there is no immortality, then all things are permitted. On this basis, a writer like Ayn Rand is absolutely correct to praise the virtues of selfishness. You might as well live totally for self. No one holds you accountable. Indeed, it would be foolish to do anything else, since life is too short to jeopardize it by acting out of anything but pure self-interest. But the problem becomes even worse, for regardless of immortality, if there is no God, then there can be no objective standards of right and wrong. All we are confronted with, in Jean-Paul Sartre's words, is the bare, valueless fact of existence. Moral values are either just expressions of personal taste or the byproducts of socio-biological evolution and conditioning. In the words of one humanist philosopher, the moral principles that govern our behavior are rooted in habit and custom, feeling and fashion. In a world without God, who is to say that the values of Adolf Hitler are inferior to those of a saint? Who's to judge whose values are right and whose are wrong? The concept of morality loses all objective meaning in a universe without God. As one contemporary atheistic ethicist points out, to say that something is wrong because it is forbidden by God is perfectly understandable to anyone who believes in a law-giving God. But to say that something is wrong even though no God exists to forbid it is not understandable. He says the concept of moral obligation is unintelligible apart from the idea of God. The words remain, but their meaning is gone.